12 archaeological discoveries, scarier than horror movies that top scientists still can't explain. Hello, welcome back to Ancient History, the place where we uncover mysteries buried under the dust of thousands of years. When it comes to archaeology, people usually think of bones, pottery, or fragments of ancient walls. But today, I'm going to tell you about discoveries that have sent chills down the spines of even the most seasoned scientists. It might sound like something out of a horror movie, but this is 100% real, documented in archaeological records. From skeletons twisted into bizarre postures, to tombs containing bodies with hearts still beating centuries after burial, to inscriptions carved in a language that no one has ever been able to decode. All of these discoveries make modern humans ask countless questions. Who created them? Why were such horrifying rituals performed? And most importantly, is there something supernatural behind these findings? So sit up straight, turn off the lights, and brace yourself, because in today's video, we're going to explore 12 of the most terrifying and unbelievable archaeological discoveries in human history, things that have left even the bravest scientists saying, "This defies all explanation." Are you ready? If so, let's dive into the first discovery right now. The 1,300-year-old tomb of the Lord of Huarmey in Peru. In a barren region near the town of Huarmey, north of Lima, Peru, where it seems that only the remnants of time remain, an archaeological discovery has stunned the scientific community. Hidden within an ancient cemetery buried beneath layers of soil and rock, archaeologists have unearthed a 1,300-year-old tomb belonging to the Wari civilization, an empire that once ruled the Andes from 500 to 1000 AD. But this is no ordinary tomb. It is like a doorway to the past, revealing the story of a powerful figure known as the Lord of Huarmey, along with 6 others buried beside him. The moment the tomb's entrance was opened, the scene inside left witnesses breathless. Surrounding the 7 skeletons were countless precious artifacts, from gold and silver jewelry to copper tools, woven baskets, textiles, and raw materials used in crafting. Every item reflects an incredible level of care and sophistication, showcasing a highly developed culture where craftsmanship was a source of national pride. Experts believe that those interred in this tomb were not only members of the elite, but also master artisans, possessing the most advanced techniques and secrets of their time. According to the archaeological team from the University of Warsaw, 6 of the 7 skeletons belong to 4 adults, possibly 2 men and 2 women, along with 3 adolescents. What surprised them was that some of the bodies appear to have been initially buried elsewhere and later relocated to this tomb, a rare ritual that may have held deep religious or familial significance that remains unexplained today. For the Wari, this tomb may have held a sacred meaning unlike any other, a spiritual convergence where the living entrusted their beliefs and memories of the community. Dr. Miłosz Giersz, the excavation team leader, added that this is the first time a tomb dedicated to high-ranking men who were also master craftsmen has been discovered. He referred to it as a gallery of elite artisans, a completely new concept, showing that the Wari society honored skilled labor as much as royal power. Those who created beauty and preserved craftsmanship were buried with the same glory as kings and rulers. The significance of this tomb extends further, as it is located near another burial site discovered in 2012 by Dr. Giersz and his wife, Associate Professor Patrycja Pszczątka-Giersz, where they uncovered the remains of 3 powerful women known as the Wari Queens. Alongside them were 58 others, mostly noble women, and some who may have been sacrificial attendants accompanying the queens into the afterlife. From these 2 discoveries arises a profound question. How advanced was the Wari civilization to simultaneously honor kings, queens, and craftsmen? Could it be that we have only glimpsed the surface of a brilliant society where power, artistry, and belief were intricately intertwined in every fragment of ancient soil? Do you have your own answer? I don't yet, but I believe that every shovel of earth reveals a piece of history, a reminder that countless secrets still lie buried beneath the Peruvian ground, waiting to be awakened by human hands and to tell the extraordinary story of a lost civilization. And the story of the Lord of Huarmey is no exception. The 12,000-year-old mummified pair of baby lions preserved as if alive. Have you ever imagined that, in the freezing lands of Siberia, where the ground remains frozen year-round, a secret could be preserved for 12,000 years? It sounds unbelievable, yet this story is entirely true. A local man named Yakov Androsov, while walking along the Uyandina River in Yakutia, Russia, accidentally discovered an unusually clear patch of ice emerging from the ground. But what stunned him wasn't the ice itself. It was the two tiny creatures inside, with pale golden fur, lying as if peacefully asleep. These creatures were later identified as two baby cave lions, a species that once roamed during the Ice Age but went extinct tens of thousands of years ago. They were named Uyan and Dina, after the river where they were found. What amazed scientists even more was that the bodies of these two lions were almost perfectly preserved. Skin, fur, and even internal organs were intact, maintained with an incredible level of detail. Many observers remarked that they looked no different from two kittens who had just fallen asleep in the snow. Russian scientists immediately began studying the find, calling it one of the most remarkable archaeological discoveries of the century. Preliminary analysis revealed that Uyan and Dina's soft tissue and DNA were so well preserved that genetic material could be extracted. Some experts even suggested that, with today's technology, cloning a cave lion, while not immediately possible, is no longer purely science fiction. But what caused these tiny creatures to remain frozen under ice for so many millennia? One hypothesis is that their mother may have hidden them in a natural pit to protect them from predators, only for a sudden landslide to bury the den entirely. Thanks to Siberia's extremely low and stable temperatures, the bodies did not decompose and were preserved almost perfectly, as if time had stopped at that fateful moment. According to Julie Meechan, a fossil specialist at Des Moines University, USA, finding two cave lion specimens with skin, fur, and internal organs intact after thousands of years is so rare that it is almost miraculous. She explained that normally, archaeologists can only find bones, or at best, fragments of soft tissue. Yet this time, these Ice Age babies were discovered in a condition that looked as if they had died yesterday. For context, cave lions were first identified in 1810 and once lived across Europe and Asia between 10,000 and 300,000 years ago. However, modern science still knows very little about them, from their population size and habitat to their evolutionary relationship with today's African lions. Now, thanks to Uyan and Dina, humanity has a unique opportunity to explore life during the Ice Age and understand how massive animals once survived the extreme cold of the ancient Earth. Ultimately, could these mummified cubs open a door to the past, perhaps even help resurrect a species that has been extinct for millennia? If humans were ever able to bring cave lions back to life, it would be a breathtaking scientific achievement, but it would also raise a critical question: should we do it? The answer remains unknown, but one thing is certain. Beneath Siberia's eternal ice lie countless secrets still waiting to be discovered. And who knows, the next find might astonish the world once again. If that happens, wouldn't it be fascinating? Medieval teenage girl's skeleton burned and buried like a resurrected witch. Beneath the ancient soil of Italy, a land that once witnessed countless chilling tales from the Middle Ages, archaeologists made a shocking discovery: a strange grave containing the skeleton of a teenage girl, only 15 to 17 years old. What makes this find particularly haunting is that the girl's body showed signs of having been burned alive, then thrown into a burial pit and covered with heavy stone slabs, as if someone had wanted to imprison her soul beneath the earth forever. The grave was found at the San Calicero complex in Albenga, northern Italy, a site already known for its mysteries surrounding the outcasts of the Middle Ages. According to a research team led by archaeologist Stefano Roacchio, this method of burial was far from random. It reflects the deep-seated fear of people at the time. They believed the girl was a witch, a threat even in death. For this reason, her body was burned, then buried face down and weighed down with stones to prevent her from rising from the dead. Interestingly, just a few years ago, in the same area, Professor Felipe Pergola's team discovered the body of a 13-year-old girl, also buried face down in a similar anti-witch ritual. This raises the question: were these two young girls connected, or were they simply victims of medieval fanaticism, where anything unusual was immediately labeled as demonic? To answer this, experts began analyzing the skeleton. Initial examinations revealed that the girl was burned while her body was still soft, a horrifying detail that led researchers to speculate: could she have been set on fire while still alive? The burn marks, charred bone fragments, and her curled posture suggest an excruciating death. When her body was thrown into the pit, her head bent sharply forward, chin almost touching her chest, a chilling image for anyone who sees it. Further analysis of her skull and eye sockets revealed signs of parotid hyperostosis, a condition caused by severe anemia and malnutrition. Weak tooth enamel and porous bones indicate she endured hunger and illness throughout her childhood. Perhaps it was her pale, frail appearance and the bruises on her body that convinced villagers she was possessed by evil. Driven by blind fear, they burned her, performing a purification ritual meant to ward off malevolent forces. Now, centuries later, after the layers of earth and stone have been removed, the girl's skeleton tells a dark chapter of human history, a time when fear and superstition overpowered reason. Scientists continue to analyze her DNA, radiocarbon dating, and burn marks on the bones to determine whether she was a victim of disease, superstition, or some other sinister cause. Even though the final answers remain unknown, one thing is certain. The fire that consumed this teenage girl so long ago still burns metaphorically in the hearts of those trying to understand why humans once feared one another to such an extent that they buried their peers under heavy stones. 900-year-old skeleton beneath an ancient tree tells a chilling medieval story. During a fierce winter storm in Sligo, Ireland, locals witnessed an unexpected scene. A massive birch tree, over 200 years old, was toppled by the wind, its roots ripping up a large section of earth. But what left everyone stunned was not the fallen tree itself, it was what lay beneath it, a human skeleton that had rested undisturbed for nearly 900 years. As the tree fell, its roots pulled up the upper half of the skeleton, including the spine and skull, exposing them above the ground. Meanwhile, the leg bones remained buried deep in the soil, as if the man were being torn in two between worlds, one half belonging to the past, the other dragged into the present. Immediately, the Sligo Leitrim archaeological team was called to the scene. What they discovered next amazed the scientific community. Research revealed that the skeleton belonged to a young man, roughly 17 to 20 years old, who lived during the Middle Ages, around 1200 to 1230 AD. He stood 5 feet 10 inches tall, nearly 3 inches taller than the average man of his time, a rare stature for that era. Despite his robust build, his body bore the marks of intense labor. Bone analysis indicated he suffered from spinal osteoarthritis, a condition common among those who performed hard physical work from a young age, possibly a farmer, laborer, or servant in the Lord's estate. However, the young man's death remains a mysterious puzzle. Examination of the skeleton revealed multiple knife wounds. First, 2 deep cuts on the ribs, followed by a slash on the hand, possibly indicating defense or resistance. Strangely, there was no evidence he died in battle. Was he a victim of a brawl, a personal dispute, or a secret execution? The question remains unanswered. One thing is certain, the man was buried according to Christian rites. His body was laid out neatly in an east-west orientation, hands folded over the pelvis, a traditional posture for Christians of that time. Yet, researchers confirmed the area was not a cemetery, meaning he was buried alone, in an open field, beneath a spot where a tree later grew to cover his grave for centuries. It is remarkable. Perhaps the isolation of his death prompted nature to protect him. The birch tree grew, its roots cradling the skeleton, preserving him for 9 centuries, until a fateful storm revealed the long-buried secret. Photos from the site are chilling. The tree roots remain tightly wrapped around the spine and skull, as if holding a restless soul. A scene both tragic and miraculous, a testament to the way nature and history can intertwine in the most unexpected ways. I would boldly say that the story of the 900-year-old skeleton beneath the ancient tree is not just an archaeological discovery, but also a reminder of human fragility and the enduring power of time. Between wind and roots, soil and bones, the past continues to whisper its story, waiting for someone curious enough to listen. Do you feel the same way? If so, don't hesitate to share your thoughts in the comments below this video. The White Ghost in a 1,000-year-old tomb in China. One morning at the end of 2007 in Jingzhou, Hubei Province, China, once the ancient capital of the Zhou dynasty, a group of workers were going about their usual tasks when suddenly a piercing shout came from the ground. "There's a huge hole!" "I think there's something underneath." The entire construction site fell silent. No one dared take another step. Little did they know, the sinkhole had opened a door to a world thousands of years old. Soon after, the local Cultural Relics Bureau was notified urgently. Within hours, archaeologists arrived at the scene. At first, everyone assumed it was just an ordinary Zhou-era tomb, since Jingzhou is famous for ancient relics. But upon closer inspection, they realized the tomb actually dated to the Han Dynasty, making it over 2,000 years old. As they dug down about 6.5 feet, the full structure of the tomb gradually appeared under the dim yellow lights. The tomb was funnel-shaped, narrowing from top to bottom, covering roughly 258 square feet, a significant size, indicating the occupant likely held a high status. At the center, archaeologists discovered a massive coffin, over 13 feet long and more than 10 feet wide, surrounded by numerous valuable burial items, all evidence of a life lived in luxury. But what caught the researchers' attention most was the coffin lid. It had a strange wooden frame, meticulously joined with round mortise and tenon joints, forming a circular pattern, a design never seen in other tombs of the era. Naturally, everyone was eager to open it and see what lay inside. Then, the unexplainable happened. As they prepared to lift the lid, a faint white-gray figure appeared on its surface, resembling a woman standing with her head bowed. The sight sent the entire team reeling in fear. Some whispered that it was the spirit of the tomb's owner, while others were convinced it was a sign of a supernatural phenomenon. In the tense atmosphere, thick with the smell of damp earth and pounding hearts, no one dared breathe heavily. Yet, after regaining their composure, the team decided to open the coffin to uncover the truth behind the white ghost. When the lid was finally lifted, instead of a mummy or valuable artifacts, the coffin contained only pale yellow liquid, with fragments of decayed silk floating on the surface. Beneath the silk lay a wooden board engraved with the deceased's name and a skeleton in disarray. Based on the ancient inscriptions, archaeologists determined the tomb belonged to a woman surnamed Hui, who died at 50 years old during the Han Dynasty. Everything seemed explained, except for the mysterious white figure. Could it really have been a ghost, as rumors suggested? After days of analysis, the truth finally emerged. The white ghost was not a spirit, but a natural phenomenon. As the silk in the coffin decayed, mold spread across the lid, forming a shape that coincidentally resembled a standing figure. In the dim light of the tomb, the mold appeared almost like a ghost materializing. Even with a scientific explanation, imagine the moment, deep underground, in a 1,000-year-old tomb, as flashlight beams illuminated the lid and the figure slowly appeared. Who wouldn't shiver? Perhaps the past never truly sleeps. It still whispers through fragments of silk, grains of wood, and sometimes even through shadows we cannot explain. What about you? Do you believe it was just mold? Or do you think Hui's spirit had something left to communicate after thousands of years of rest? A 1,000-year-old family tomb in Xi'an, China, even ancient grave robbers were foiled by its ingenious traps. In November 2006, in Xi'an, Shanxi Province, China, what seemed like an ordinary incident quickly unfolded into a story that left archaeologists holding their breath. At that time, the police seized 129 ancient artifacts, including inscribed steles that a smuggling group had attempted to remove from a Song Dynasty tomb. According to their statements, these items were taken from a nearby ancient tomb by someone distantly related to the tomb's owner and then sold on the black market. But when the Shanxi Provincial Cultural Relics Bureau arrived at the site, they were shocked. This was no ordinary tomb. It was part of a family cemetery covering nearly 22 acres, containing the graves of 5 generations of the Liu family from the Song Dynasty. The cemetery was laid out according to a scientific central axis plan. The tombs of the eldest son and eldest grandson were aligned along the main axis, while other tombs were arranged along secondary axes according to family hierarchy. What made this tomb particularly impressive and foiled even ancient grave robbers was its sophisticated anti-theft system, known as tomb stacked on tomb. Each tomb was built very deep, the shallowest at 25 feet and the deepest at 51 feet, with multiple chambers stacked on top of each other. Only the bottom chamber contained the coffin and precious burial items. The upper chambers were empty. Any intruder digging down would have to navigate from one chamber to another, never knowing which was the real burial chamber, risking being trapped or suffocated. This danger was clearly demonstrated during the excavation itself. Archaeologists almost became trapped alive because of the tomb's clever design, showing just how meticulously the ancient builders had planned everything. As the site was carefully excavated, experts began to uncover the history of this prestigious family, the Liu family of Da Lin, which existed from 1044 to 1092. They were famous as pioneers of Chinese archaeology. Liu Da Lin was the first scholar to systematically study bronze artifacts and ancient inscriptions, cataloging, sketching, and annotating them in a highly scientific manner, laying the foundation for archaeology and paleontology in China. Surprisingly, no bronze artifacts belonging to Liu Da Lin were found in the tomb, possibly looted long ago. Nevertheless, archaeologists discovered over 600 exquisite artifacts, including porcelain, ceramics, gold, silver, and lacquerware, mostly items used in daily life, reflecting the family's refined aesthetic taste. In the tomb of Tian Dung, Liu Da Lin's granddaughter, archaeologists found a silver box containing red powder, which tests confirmed was women's makeup. Remarkably, after 1,000 years, the powder remained intact, as if time had not touched it. This tomb not only demonstrates advanced tomb-building techniques, but also reveals the daily life, culture, and aesthetic sensibilities of a noble Song dynasty family. Tea sets, household utensils, and delicate artifacts indicate that tea was a popular drink, and life was highly civilized and refined. Every detail of the artifacts tells a story of the family's intelligence, meticulousness, and power, to the point that even ancient grave robbers failed, and modern archaeologists had to proceed with extreme caution. Looking at this family cemetery, it is easy to see that the ancients had considered every method to protect the family's wealth and reputation. This site is a vivid testament to the combination of science, art, and defensive strategy in Song dynasty China, a priceless lesson for anyone interested in archaeology and history. The Wolfman Skull Box. Imagine this. On a normal morning in the fields, instead of digging up rocks or roots, you uncover an ancient wooden box, chained tightly as if guarding a secret no one should ever know. What would you do? Hard to imagine, right? But this is exactly what happened to Traichi Draganov, an ordinary Bulgarian farmer living in Novo Selo, Macedonia. While preparing the soil for a new planting season, Draganov unexpectedly unearthed an old wooden box buried deep in the ground. The strange thing was that this box bore no resemblance to any agricultural tool he had ever seen. It was wrapped in rusted chains and securely locked, as if someone had wanted to ensure that nobody could open it. Driven by curiosity, he cut the chains and opened the box. What he saw inside left him speechless. Inside was a skull shaped like a wolf's, but what stunned everyone even more was the unusually enlarged cranial dome, a feature never seen in animals, only in primates and humans. The skull combined the ferocity of a wild beast with an eerie, inexplicable oddity, defying normal logic. News of the shocking discovery quickly reached historian Philip Ganev, who happened to be in Novo Selo collecting material for a book on the Balkan Wars. After witnessing the strange skull firsthand, Ganev photographed it and reported it to the authorities. However, the official conclusion from the Macedonian government disappointed many. They claimed it was merely the skull of a wolf suffering from a chronic bone disease, an extremely rare condition that could deform the skull. But this is where the story takes a twist. The disease they referenced is typically found in humans and rarely occurs in wild animals. So how could a wolf exhibit a human-like cranial deformation? And why was this skull carefully stored in a locked, chained box, as if trapping a dangerous entity? To explore this, we turn to ancient Balkan folklore, where the werewolf was not just a legend, but a deep-rooted fear passed down through generations. Some believe that werewolves were the wandering spirits of the severely guilty, eternally cursed. One legend even claimed that a werewolf could only be killed on a Saturday, when it returned to its resting place, and the only way to prevent its resurrection was to decapitate it and burn the body. If this legend holds any truth, the fact that the box contained only a head could suggest that someone once performed a ritual to seal the creature and prevent its return. But by opening the box, could Traichi Draganov have broken that seal? Interestingly, while Traich was proud of his strange find and willing to share it with anyone curious, the villagers of Novo Selo did not share his enthusiasm. They believed he had awakened something that should not be disturbed, and feared the werewolf's return. Traich himself reflected, with unease, "They think my actions will bring the werewolf back, but it's done. What is meant to happen will happen." So what about you? Do you think this is simply a deformed wolf skull? Or could it be the remains of a creature that once spread terror across the ancient Balkans? Personally, I believe the answer may still lie quietly in the field where the box was discovered, or worse, it may have awakened and be waiting for something in the future. The tattooed mummy and the golden treasure beneath a pyramid in Peru. When most people think of mummies, Egypt immediately comes to mind. Legendary pharaohs, Ka spirits, and opulent gold-adorned tombs. The ancient Egyptians believed the body was the dwelling place of the soul, and they went to great lengths to preserve it, from removing internal organs to dehydrating the corpse with natron, ensuring it could last for thousands of years. In China, mummies were cared for just as meticulously. Wooden caskets made from cypress and medicinal herbs were used to slow decomposition and preserve the body. But today, let's set Egypt aside and travel deep into South America, to Peru, a land where ancient pyramids hold mysteries as intriguing as those of the pharaohs. Deep inside the El Brujo pyramid, archaeologists discovered a mummy that had lain undisturbed for nearly 1,600 years, waiting for its secrets to be revealed. What first caught the researchers' attention were unusual marks in the soil, rectangular patterns that hinted at a hidden secret beneath. Careful excavation revealed a magnificent tomb, not merely a burial site, but a treasure trove of gold, jade, bracelets, rings, and other luxury items reserved only for high-ranking individuals in Moche society. The centerpiece of the tomb, however, stunned everyone. The mummy was not a king or a famous warrior, but a young woman. Her body was adorned with elaborate tattoos depicting snakes, spiders, crabs, and other strange crawling creatures across her arms, legs, and feet. The number and complexity of these tattoos surpassed any other artifact left by the Moche. They were not only works of art, but seemed to encode religious beliefs, prayers for abundant harvests, and symbols of authority. The Moche were a society where men typically held power. So why was this woman treated with such respect? Was she a queen, a high priestess, or even a celebrated female warrior? Remarkably, she was buried with 23 spears, a staggering number compared to the men of similar status who were usually buried with only one or two. Even as researchers pondered her high status, another mystery emerged. Why did she die so young? Her skeletal remains showed no signs of disease or trauma, though some hypotheses suggest she may have died in childbirth. While that remains unconfirmed, one thing is certain: this mummy provides archaeologists with invaluable insights into the life, worldview, and beliefs of the Moche civilization. Observing her, one cannot help but wonder, in a male-dominated society, why was a woman so highly honored? Her tattoos, the treasures buried with her, and the rituals surrounding her tomb seem to tell a story we have yet to fully decode. Each mark, each symbol, forms a piece of the Moche historical puzzle, inviting us to explore and reflect. Peru, with its pyramids and treasure-filled tombs, proves that the ancient world still holds countless undiscovered mysteries. If Egypt is famous for its pharaohs' mummies, the Moche civilization is no less magnificent, immortalizing female heroes like this young woman, whose life, deeds, and legacy have left an indelible mark on history. The 20,000-year-old woman's tomb in a hunter's hut. If you've ever believed that cremation is a practice that appeared only about 10,000 years ago, the latest archaeological discovery in Jordan might make you reconsider the entire history of humanity. Why do I say that? Recently, archaeologists unearthed a strange and mysterious ancient tomb that challenges previous scientific understanding, opening a window into a sacred ritual from nearly 20,000 years ago. The site, Karna 4, is a remote desert location in Jordan where excavations began in 2015. Initially, archaeologists only found fragments of antelope bones, evidence of a long-standing hunting ground. But in 2024, a team led by Dr. Lisa Maher, University of California, Berkeley, and Dr. Danielle McDonald, University of Tulsa, uncovered something far beyond expectations: a Paleolithic tomb showing early signs of cremation. What shocked the archaeological world even more was the tomb's age: 19,400 years old, far exceeding previously recorded evidence of cremation. This ancient tomb was unlike any other ever discovered. Inside, scientists found the body of a woman, placed on her side with her knees drawn up, resting inside a small wooden hunter's hut. What made it extraordinary was that both the hut and the body had been burned, as if intentionally, in a ritualistic act. Analysis by the research team suggests that the hut was built like a real home, a living space for the living. Yet, in a sacred ceremony, the deceased was cremated within that very living space, allowing her to continue existing among the living. This symbolic form of burial transformed the tomb into an eternal home. The evidence surrounding the area further highlights the woman's special status. At least 3 other huts with similar structures were discovered nearby, but all were empty. No remains, no signs of cremation. This led researchers to believe that cremation in the hunter's hut was reserved only for a select few with high status, and this woman was among them. She may have been an elder, a spiritual leader, or a central figure in the ancient hunter-gatherer community. The way she was laid to rest indicates that she was not an ordinary person, but a living symbol of her community. This extraordinary tomb not only challenges the foundations of modern archaeology, but also offers insight into how ancient people viewed life and death as interconnected realms, inseparable and interwoven with every breath. Could it be that tens of thousands of years ago, humans already understood that death was not an end, but a return? Given this discovery, that possibility no longer seems far-fetched. The remains of a 29-week fetus. On a gloomy morning in April 2009, when the ground shook violently from a 6.3 magnitude earthquake in L'Aquila, Italy, all eyes were drawn to collapsed buildings, desperate cries for help, and the unbearable grief of over 300 lives lost in an instant. Yet amid the devastation, no one expected that beneath the floor of a centuries-old church, collapsed by the tremor, lay a chilling secret hidden for more than 180 years, the remains of a fetus only 29 weeks old. During excavation, the archaeological team not only discovered the mummified remains of adults, but also uncovered an unusually small skeletal set. It was the skeleton of an unborn child, never having taken its first breath, lying silently in the dark of the church basement. Experts from Chieti University determined that the fetus dates back to around 1840, a time when modern medicine was still a distant dream and societal attitudes toward reproduction were heavily restrictive and oppressive. Using advanced X-ray technology, researchers noted something unusual. The fetal skeleton was disarticulated. The skull was fractured in multiple places, the spine was broken, and the arms were completely detached from the body. This was not the result of natural decomposition, but clear evidence of a brutal and controversial procedure known as embryotomy. This procedure, common from the Middle Ages and still sporadically practiced into the 19th century, was a primitive form of abortion. Crude tools such as wooden sticks or metal rods were inserted into the mother's body to remove the fetus, regardless of whether the child was alive or deceased. Embryotomy was sometimes performed for medical reasons as a last resort, but it could also stem from social prejudice or the harsh circumstances that women of that era were forced to endure. We will likely never know exactly what happened to the mother of this fetus. Was she a victim of society or of strict religious regulations? That question may remain forever unanswered. What makes this discovery particularly poignant is not only its archaeological value, but also the way the local Italian community historically treated a life that never had the chance to be born. Experts carefully collected and repositioned each skeletal fragment into its original placement, a final act of respect for this tiny child. In a world where death is often overlooked, this careful preservation stands as a testament to human compassion, delayed perhaps, but enduring in the hearts of people. An earthquake tore open the earth, but inadvertently revealed secrets long forgotten by time. The remains of this 29-week-old fetus now serve as a reminder of a painful past, of life and death choices, and of the empathy that humans are capable of extending, even at the boundary between life and death. The 1,000-year-old tomb of a Chinese couple. During the construction of the Ningxiang-Shaoshan Highway in Hunan Province, China, workers had no idea that part of a millennium-old past lay just beneath their feet. As soon as the excavator dug into the earth, layers of soil and rock gradually revealed an unusual structure. 2 brick coffins placed side by side. Inside, the remains of a couple were discovered, buried during the Northern Song dynasty, over 1,000 years ago. The archaeological team from the Hunan Provincial Institute of Cultural Relics and Archaeology quickly arrived on site, and what they uncovered shocked the professional community. Between the two coffins, the resting places of the husband and wife, was a structure resembling a small window. At first glance, it might have seemed like a simple ventilation opening or a technical feature, but to the trained eyes of the experts, this was far from an ordinary architectural detail. Researchers suggest this structure can be poetically called a fairy bridge. It symbolizes the connection between two souls, allowing the couple, even in death, to see each other, converse, and continue their unfinished love story beyond the mortal world. The construction of a double tomb with a spiritual bridge is extremely rare in Chinese archaeology. It reflects not only the deep bond between the couple, but also ancient cultural beliefs about death, that death is not the end, but rather a passage to another form of existence where love continues to flourish. Inside the tomb, the team also found numerous ceramic burial objects, most of which remained intact and were carefully arranged. Based on the style and quality of these artifacts, experts believe the couple likely came from a well-to-do family with social status during the Northern Song dynasty. After excavation, each artifact was cleaned, documented, and taken to a museum, where their love story will continue to be shared with future generations. In a world full of change and turmoil, love remains sacred and enduring. The 1,000-year-old tomb in Hunan is not just an archaeological discovery, it is a gentle message from the past, showing that some loves require no words, no glances, yet can transcend 1,000 years to remain together forever. The 700-year-old lovers' skeletons, still hand-in-hand beneath a lost church in England. When people think of mysterious archaeological stories, they often imagine the pyramids of Egypt or mummies in Peru. But did you know that in the peaceful countryside of Leicestershire, England, there lies a secret that makes many shiver? During a project to excavate a long-lost church, St. Morel's Church, archaeologists uncovered an unforgettable scene. Two skeletons still hand-in-hand, even after more than 700 years. At first glance, you might think, oh, what's so unusual about lovers dying together? But the truth sparks curiosity. These two were not buried in the main church of the area, but rather in a church that had vanished over time, only recently discovered by historians and archaeologists. Why they were buried here or placed here remains a mystery. Vicky Score, one of the researchers, explained that this unusual finding raises a big question. Why weren't they buried in Hallaton, which had a better church, instead of St. Morel's? One hypothesis suggests that this lost church may have been reserved for special individuals, perhaps criminals, exiles, people with infectious diseases, or simply a stop along medieval pilgrimage routes. Of course, the excavation did not happen overnight. Over the course of 4 years, archaeologists from the University of Leicester, along with local volunteers, carefully uncovered walls, stone foundations, plaster, tiles, and other structural elements stretching from the windows to the surrounding graveyard. In addition, they found several coins, including silver coins dating from the 12th to the 16th centuries, helping confirm when the church was active. It may sound dry, but can you imagine the feeling of uncovering these remnants, where each stone and tile tells a story from 700 years ago? The discoveries became even more remarkable when archaeologists used radiocarbon dating to determine the age of the skeletons. Results showed that all 11 skeletons in the area date to the 14th century and were buried in an east-west orientation, following Christian customs of the time. But the most striking find remains the hand-in-hand couple, a timeless symbol of love or connection that makes one pause and wonder about their lives. Were they lovers or companions facing the harsh realities of medieval life together? Looking at the remains, you see more than bones. You see a window into the social life, beliefs, and culture of the era. This lost church was once a center of religious activity, a place for burial and remembrance of a community that has long disappeared. Even with just stone foundations and a few coins left behind, these traces open a window into human experience, love, faith, and mysteries yet unsolved. Ultimately, the intertwined hands of these skeletons send a silent message that even as the world changes and centuries pass, fundamental human emotions like love and care endure, transcending the barriers of time. For anyone passionate about discovery, This story proves that sometimes the greatest mysteries are not in distant pyramids or tombs, but right here, in the familiar landscapes around us. Looking back at these 12 horrifying archaeological discoveries, you realize that history can sometimes be scarier than any horror movie we've ever watched. From Egyptian mummies resting in glittering golden tombs, to hand-in-hand skeletons in England, to mysteriously tattooed mummies in Peru, all of them are living testaments to the mysteries humanity has yet to fully explain. What sends shivers down our spines isn't just death itself. It's the stories, cultures, beliefs, and rituals that these people left behind for future generations. Have you noticed that within each discovery, there's a huge question waiting for us to answer? Why were they buried this way? Those strange tattoos, the couples holding hands, or tombs covered in gold, they are like messages from the past, challenging both our imagination and our reason. And it's precisely this mystery that makes archaeology so fascinating. It's not just digging up bones or ancient coins, it's opening a door into a world only the deceased truly knew. Who's to say that beneath those layers of earth, thousands of other strange and incredible stories aren't waiting for us to uncover them? What do you think about that? Which discovery from this list impressed you the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to give us a like and subscribe so you won't miss any of the channel's fascinating discoveries. For now, that's all. See you next time.